Good evening, friends. After a very, very long time, I'm in front of you. Of course, I did 2 webinars with our PMS customer, but I could not come with our other customers who are not PMS. And the reason was very obvious that my mother was not well, and then we lost her on 8th July. So I'm again back in front of you with equity outlook. I think the last webinar I did on 7th July was also equity outlook. And again, this time I'm on 1st August, I'm with equity outlook. Very interesting data, a lot of uncertainty about what's happening because of tariff and how should we navigate this market. July has been extremely choppy. There were more companies that declined than advanced, and what should we expect going forward. So I'm going to present all this to all of you. And of course, as usual, will be open floor question answer. But before I begin my webinar's disclaimer, this webinar is just to enhance your understanding about the equity market. It's only for the education purpose. Past returns are no indicator of future returns, and investment in securities market. Investment in securities are subject to market risk. With this, let's try to understand what happened in the month of July. Market was really choppy. In fact, Nifty, we closed down almost by 3%. Mid and small cap, which was showing some strength, has again come under pressure and lost near about 2.5%. And overall advanced decline ratio was very poor at 0.95. And what does it mean is that more company declined as compared to advance. If you look at last 3-4 months, the more company advance as compared to decline. So there was overall pressure that was there in the market. FPI were net sellers. And at the same time, if you look at the overall volume in the market was less than 1 lakh crore. So last few months, we again saw volume going back to 1 lakh crore. But in the month of July, it went below 1 lakh crore. One good thing which I've observed is that more and more investors are taking delivery of the shares. It's a good sign. Why? Because serious investors are making a comeback to the market, and which is a very healthy sign, which I presented data to our PMS customer yesterday. Of course, I have not put that slide in today's presentation. In the month of July, we all know that Jane Street came under SEBI's investigation. And that did create some amount of a pressure in the market. Why? Because people thought there could be cascading effect, especially on the futures and options market. And in turn, it will have a ripple effect also on the cash market. But no one now talks about Jane Street. But one thing which comes out very clearly, if you read that SEBI's report, which is available on SEBI's website, one thing which makes me convinced now that if you are playing in the F&O market, your probability of winning comes down drastically. Why? Because we are playing with a giant which has an algo at his advantage. And the quantum of profit that Jane Street made is so huge, you're going to get an idea. And who basically, if Jane Street made that money, who lost? The retail investors lost that kind of a money because of this. So my advice and humble request to all of you is that be careful with your F&O. The probability of you losing money is very, very high. And that's what SEBI data also keep suggesting time and again, that F&O is not for the retail investors. In fact, it's meant for the very seasoned investors who understand, and the quantum of resources that player like Jane Street had put, probability of you winning against them is like, you are fighting with the sword, and the guy has a bomb and whatnot, the drone and bomb and missile and so on. There is no way you can win against this kind of a latest armory that these people have. So my request, learn something from other people's mistake also. You don't have to commit the mistake. You don't have to lose money big time, and be careful with your F&O. India CPI inflation, that is the retail inflation, continues to remain very, very benign. 2.1% for the month of June, which is the lowest since 2019. In other words, we went back pre-COVID inflation rate. This is mainly driven by the food inflation. But if you look at the core inflation, which removes food and the fuel, I think inflation is still about 3%. Parliament session began, and we all know that Sindoor discussion is happening. It will end on 21st August. That's what happened. It started in the month of July, which will get extended till 21st August. One major news which really shook the investors is TCS announcing cut in the employment of 12,000 people across the world, which clearly suggests that there has been a pressure in the IT companies. If you go back to my equity outlook last month, I did mention do not expect good numbers from the IT companies. Even I said don't expect good numbers coming from the fan and the air conditioner and the refrigerator companies, and that's what has happened. The problem, I was talking to one of our PMS customers who happens to be in the IT software company in the Bangalore, and he was suggesting that there is a serious concern with the IT companies PI because and he was mainly into BFSI, suggesting that the business volume is little low, and for the same business, more and more people are competing. So what happens? It basically comes at the cost of the lower margin. Trump imposed 25% tariff on India 2 days back, and which is going to come in effect from 1st August. But before coming into this webinar, I just realized that this 1st August deadline could be 7th August now. Why? Because the border custom needs some amount of a time adjustment to implement that. So the new tariff, which is of 25%, will come from 7th August, not 1st August. Trump also threatened to impose an unspecified penalty on India. Why? Because India imports crude oil and the arms from the Russia. They want to punish Russia. In turn, India and China could also come under pressure. We don't know what is that going to be. Now the basic question comes to our mind: should we worry about this tariff? My answer is no. The reason I am saying so, that is nothing cast in the stone. This tariff can undergo change. Trump has been little more aggressive, I don't know for what reason, against India. It seems to be more pro-Pakistan. We really don't have any clue what is happening in the Trump mind. Actually, the way the Vice President J.D. Vance came to India, it gave an impression that everything should be hunky-dory. In fact, India has been doing bilateral discussion much ahead of other countries. And yet, Trump seems to be, every day seems to be not losing a single opportunity to pass comments which doesn't give an idea, which doesn't give an impression that India, in the Trump eye, is a friendly country. I think it has been more aggressive and criticizing India. Yesterday, he talked about dead economies of India along with China, not along with Russia, where I don't know where the statements are coming and where they're factually correct, because India continues to be one of the fastest growing economy in the world. So I think body language, the kind of word being chosen by Trump, gives an understanding, gives an impression that Trump has some serious issue with India, which may not be only economical, could be something beyond that. We need to wait and watch. But should you little be concerned about it? The answer is clearly no. We all know Trump tantrum has been, first he talked about 2nd April, then he postponed it to 9th April. From 9th April, he said we are going extending by 3 months to 2nd July. Then he came with 1st August, and now we have a date which says 7th August. So I think Trump has been keep postponing the tariff implementation every now and then. What happens during that period? From 2nd April to 9th April, the Nifty lost 4%. But when the 3 months extension came from 9th April to 2nd July, the market moved up by 13.6%. And from 2nd July to 1st August, market lost about 3.5%. So somewhere, tariff, so in the negative side, it has a very limited impact, but on the positive side, the deferment has very big impact on the sentiment. Let's move from the domestic to the US. The big beautiful bill got passed eventually. Now, what does this mean? It means that US will have an additional spending deficit of 3.4 trillion in next 10 years. Trump believes that he will be able to recoup that by imposing tariff. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense, because what will happen when you increase the tariff, the demand for goods and services comes down. And when demand for goods and services comes down, the net effect may not be what Trump believes. But that's what Trump believes. I hope he has a better and sensible advisor who makes him understand the demand-supply equation. When the price goes up, demand comes down, and vice versa. So sometimes it's not necessarily that it's going to happen. Anyway, if you remember, last time we said the 9th July was supposed to be the tariff to implement it, which got extended to 1st August and further extended as we speak to 7th August. NVIDIA became the first company in the world to have a 4 trillion market cap. No other company in the world before this touched that iconic market cap, what we call a threshold of 4 trillion. Bitcoin price surged in the month of July, touching 1.2 lakh. And due to that, the YTD gain of Bitcoin as of yesterday is 23%. The tariff war, and there's a beautiful article which got published in the Wall Street Journal. So one of our previous customer came down to our office, and I said that article to him because I happened to read that article where how prices in Walmart, what it was during 1st January and what it was during the month of July, and they've shown comparison. In some of the cases, the price have gone up by more than 100%. So somewhere this tariff, the trade war is showing up in the inflation data. CPI in the month of June increased to 2.7, and yesterday core PCA, that is the data which the Federal Reserve prefer, is basically increased to 2.8%. We all know that Fed chairman did not cut the rate day before yesterday. Despite, and in fact, a lot of guts required. Why? Because Jerome Powell has been acting really tough with Trump. You know, he has been dictating, he has been abusing him openly, and he wants the rate to be come down from 4.25 to 4.5, 4.5 to 1%. But this guy is saying, no, I will do what is right for the US economy. And the way inflation is forming up, and which will further go up from 1st August, I do not expect another rate cut coming in even on 17th September. As per CME Fed Watch tool, 60% probability that there will be a status quo in the rate cut. There will not be a rate cut, sorry. The rate of interest will remain, and I think it is likely so, because if inflation is going to further go up, if you do rate cut, it will further fuel the inflation. So somewhere it doesn't make sense. I think Trump is going the same way what Turkey economy went through. If you know that in Turkey, the inflation was very, very high, and the Turkish government wanted the rate of interest to come down. And it did happen. It further fueled the inflation. And then some sensible things happened, and now they started realizing they're doing it. So those who follow economics would know this data. And this has happened in last 12 to 18 months. It's not, I'm talking about very distant past. In the month of July, there was another concern that Jerome Powell could be sacked. Why? Because it seemed that some gochi has been done by Jerome Powell while renovating the Fed head office. Eventually that did not happen, and that gives some relief to the market. There is another twist that can happen to the tariff war. Yesterday, Federal Appeals Court was listening oral argument that does Trump has even rights to impose a tariff at the first place? Does President of the US has the rights to put this one? And if you look at the word, of course, there is no conclusion yet. But the way some of the court judges made a statement, they passed a statement which gives an impression that they are not very comfortable. I don't think there is a constitutional rights which has been given by the U.S. Constitution for president of that country to put this tariff. In fact, to justify that this is a International Emergency Economic Powers Act, does tariff comes under that? People are doubting. Even the judges say that the deficit has been there for many years and many decades. So why suddenly? So there is a little question mark about whether Trump has an authority to even impose tariff. The Trump believes he has, but we need to wait and watch what the legally comes out. If you know that in May, America's Court of International Trade shot down that argument that Trump has a power. Of course, it went to the appeal court, and appeal court basically allowed. Now we don't know what's going to happen. Am I right? But whichever party loses, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and hence we don't see the solution coming in very, very soon. From US, let's move to the international China. Let's begin with China's economy. Little slow down. Of course, it did better than what was expected, but it came at 5.2 as compared to 5.4 of the first quarter. So we try to understand. A lot of Chinese factory are also running a little ahead of the time because everyone knew the tariff is coming in, and hence a lot of export happened from China to the US just to beat that tariff kind of stuff. So we need to really see how Chinese economy performs post tariff coming into play. Why? Then that window between that tariff coming and no tariff, or not tariff or lower tariff getting close, we need to see then what is, because there's a lot of inventory got built up even in the US economy. Why? Because in anticipation of tariff, a lot of goods got exported to the US. The goods are lying with the retailer in the store, and of course some people also bought it in anticipation. Was why to pay now if the price is going to go up? Why please buy now rather than later? So we need to wait and watch. I think we'll get more clarity about Chinese economy maybe in the fourth quarter, that is October to December, where how it happened, how it impacted, how the tariff is impacting the goods movement within the US and the China. ECB kept the rate of interest at the same level at 2%. Okay, and there is one thing which everyone seems to be believing, that inflationary shock seems to be behind. That's what even ECB President Christine Lagarde believes. She believes that this is what's going to happen. Having said that, we should expect near about 25 bips rate cut in the month of September, that is next month. But remember, this tariff can impact the inflation expectation severely, because we don't know what would happen. The crude oil prices started moving up. Second month in a row, India's crude basket, of course I'll present the data in the subsequent slide, has moved up. So we need to wait and watch. Let's look at some data points before we talk about how do we see the market going forward. Poor market sentiment impacted advance decline ratio 1.26, which was there in the month of April, which came down to 1.2 in the month of May. It further came down to 1.09 in the month of June, and now we are below 1.95. So while it's better than what it was there in the month of Jan and the Feb, but the trend basically declining is not very happy. That shows clearly poor market sentiment. India lost near about 12 lakh crore market cap in the month of July. And if you look at the last July, that is 2024, we were at 459 lakh crore, which we are still 9 lakh crore negative, despite many companies basically tapping the market. So logically that addition happened, and yet we are basically lower than what it was last year at same time. Yesterday I made a presentation to our PMS customers, showed them how mutual fund, the category average, whether it's a large cap, whether it's a mid cap, whether it's a small cap, whether it's a multi cap, or whether it's a value strategy, they all are down as compared to in last 1 year return is negative. Category return is negative. Returns are negative. If you look at your own portfolio, your personal portfolio, last 1 year, probably is very high that you would be negative. And in many cases, that number negative would be in a double digit. So market in last 1 year has gone nowhere. And sometimes, and some people started thinking, why should we put money? So if you look at in YTD, FY 2026 YTD, again I put that data in, with our PMS customer in yesterday's webinar. The retail investors, after 5-6 years of positive inflow since 2020, in the current financial year, they've turned negative. They've taken out the money from the equity market, retail investors, isn't it? Purely because of recency bias, they lost money. Since they lost money, they think, let's put money into other assets class. Some of the investors are making classical mistake, going by recency bias. They're taking money out from the equity, putting into real estate, putting into the gold, and so on and so forth. In fact, I was talking to one of our PMS customer today, and he lives in Sobha Forest. That's a building in Bangalore. He bought that. Of course, he's staying in that house. He bought it for 2.25 crore 10 years back. The present value is 4 crore. You can imagine what kind of CAGR that property gave. So sometimes, we believe that last 3-4 years has been good for the real estate. We tend to believe that is going to be good for going forward also. Same way gold, people forget that all recency bias does not pay out way. In fact, I'll ask you a very simple question. Given a choice in the beginning of 2025, I give you two choices, whether you will buy Nvidia or you will buy Boeing, and most of the people will say we will buy Boeing. People will say Nvidia, but the fact is that Boeing gave more returns as compared to Nvidia in 2025. So sometimes, our memory also plays play tricks with us. Sometimes our assumption would be, no, Boeing would have given negative returns and Nvidia have given higher returns. The reality is that Boeing gave more returns as compared to Nvidia. Just check it out on Google and you will see that. Cash volume also came down, as I was mentioning about. So if you look at the trend was increasing. In Feb it was 91,000 crore. It increased in March to 98. In April 1 lakh. In May further to 1.11 lakh crore. It further improved in June to 1.13 lakh crore. It came down to 94,995 crore. Which means the 5-month low volume has happened in market. Advanced decline we talked about. We look at the cash volume declining. Last July, I talked about what happened in the first half of 2025 and what should we expect the second half of 2025. And we did mention about that while the banks have did well in first half of 2025, capital goods and infra did very well. But one sector which I was very bullish about was FMC did not do well. And I did mention that it has not done well, likely to do well in the second half of 2025. In the first month of second half, the Nifty FMCG index is in green 1.69. Of course, the Nifty Pharma did extremely well of 3.32. But if you look at it, the red ink is there across in the month of July. Mid and small cap lost near about 2.29 and the Sensex and Nifty lost near about 3%. The worst performing has been Nifty IT purely because of the news flow has been quite negative. My sense is that a lot of negatives are there in the Nifty IT. In next couple of months, we should see Nifty IT forming a bottom. Realty index is again down by 8% in the month of July. And if you look at the YTD also, the Nifty Realty is down. 70% of the Nifty 50 stocks closed in the red in the month of July. Eternal, which is nothing but the Zomato, which is up by 16.5. Hindustan Unilever, after a very, very long period, up by 10% in a single month. Apollo Hospital, Cipla, JSW, they did well. But if you look at some of the banks like Kotak Mahindra Bank was down by 9%, Titan was down by 9.3%, Axis Bank was down by 10%, TCS for the right reason down by 12%, HCL Technology for right reason down by 15%, and Trent was down by 20%. Yes. So look at some of the big performers. Basically, like Trent was one of the best performing company for many months in a row. Was in a single month, it was down by 19.3% in a single month. So you can understand the amount of fall it took place. FPI, after buying in 3 months in a positive, were down by 17.741 crore. If you look at in the net sale in India, it's 95.642 crore in 2025. Am I changing my view about FPI investing in 2025? If you remember, the probability of FPI putting positive inflow of 50,000 to 1 lakh crore, am I changing my view? The answer is no. I still believe FPI will come back very strongly in next 5 months of 2025. Why? Because of, I'll explain you why in my subsequent slide. The domestic institutional investors put in about 60,000 crore, little less than what it did in the month of June, but they were positive. And if you look at it, while the FPI sold 95,000 crore in 2025, DI basically bought near about 4.19 lakh crore in this one. US market continued to outperform the Indian market. While the BSE and Sensex, BSE 500, Sensex and Nifty 50 closed in the red, but the China was up at 3.74, and both Nasdaq and Dow Jones were closed in the green. The third month in a row where US market did well as compared to Indian market. Because of July red ink, the mid and small cap were almost at the break-even level, but now they basically again went into the red. 1.42 mid cap, small cap 3.17. Very quickly we'll talk about June quarter because the result season is still on. The 6.6% growth Y-on-Y. Let's not talk about quarter on quarter because normally June quarter is always bad as compared to March quarter. 62% of the Indian market cap companies have declared the numbers. So we are coming very closer to the end of the result season. As in the next 7 days or so, I think almost 80-85% of the company would have, in terms of market cap, would have declared the numbers. I personally believe the numbers are good because of the kind of environment we were in, because of tariff war and so on and so forth. 6.6% growth in earnings is quite good. We all know that Reliance had a very abnormal gain happening, and if you remove Reliance from the Indian numbers, the growth is still decent of 4.8%. And if I do further iteration in that, India Inc. minus RIL and BFSI, the growth goes to 8.1%. In other words, this time growth is not driven by BFSI. That's what limited point I wanted to convey to you. Indian market cap, the valuation continues to remain a little expensive at 27 times. Why? Because the market cap is 452 lakh crore. The TTM net profits of India Inc. is 17 lakh crore, and that gives me market P of 27 times. Rupee had a very little rough month. One of the worst months in 2025 was down by 2.07%. And if you look at the YTD, the rupee has declined 2.2% versus the dollar. We do maintain that rupee range that we discussed last month. We don't want to change that target for year end. GST collection which came today, 1.96 lakh crore gross, and which is so 7.5% Y-on-Y growth. Even if you look at the month on month, there has been a growth of near about 1.85, and this one almost 8% or so has been a growth in a Y-on-Y. If you look at the net GST collection, it was 1.68 lakh crore versus 1.65 lakh crore of July 2024. So the marginal increase has happened. And even if you look at the month on month, that is June, 1.59 lakh crore to 1.68 lakh crore. So to some extent, there has been a little decline in the GST collection growth rate. Crude oil price, we all know 64 went to $70 per barrel purely because of, Iran threatening to have blocking the Suez Canal, and that we saw that, disrupting that. But despite that, if you look at it, 69.8 has basically further gone down to 71, this one. And as I speak to you yesterday, the crude for Indian basket was 74.82. So in other words, the trend is basically moving up for the crude oil, which is not good for India. The reason has been US. There is a threatening from the Trump that next 15 days or next 10 days, the Russia has to come and there should be a ceasefire with Ukraine. He also said that those who are buying crude from Russia can see the further penalty, and due to that, there's a little concerns on the crude oil price. We will watch this data very carefully. Electricity generation basically came down Y on Y 4% purely because of monsoon arriving early. Historically, there is no trend that we can see in the month of August. Only once, and as and when there's when the gain has been near about 2 and 3%, 2 to 3%. This 2021 little exception, and August 2015 was also a little exception where the market went down. In the month of August, it lost 7%. But otherwise, market seems to be in a very narrow range kind of a stuff, which has happened in the month of August. Monsoon till now has been good, 6% as compared to the average LPA, driven by central India and the northwest. The South Peninsula has been almost at the same level what expected, but the east and northeast India has a deficit of 22%. Sowing till now has been quite good, 3.98% up as compared to the last year same time. The rice has been 13.4. We all know that rice supply is excess globally. The rice prices have come down globally also. Why? Because more supply, less demand. But if you look at the pulses, core cereal, which is 3.5 and 3.71 better than what it was last year, it's some comfort level. The only worry could be oilseeds, which is 2.25. India does import a lot of oilseeds, and that's where there could be a pressure on the oilseed prices. Otherwise, things seem to be quite good on the sowing side. What to expect going forward? Tariff-related news can impact the market sentiment, but only temporarily. Use every dip in the market to buy more. I bought yesterday in my personal portfolio. Today I was busy, so I could not buy, but I would have bought actually, to be very honest with you. It's just that I did not get a chance to look at the market because I was busy making this presentation. I was busy with some other office meetings, so that's why I did not. Remember, India is going to do extremely well in second half of FY 2026. And that should lift the earnings growth for India. I am making this statement despite tariff-related uncertainty. I also believe that right now IT is looking very bad, but it should form a bottom in next couple of months, and that should be a good opportunity for everyone to look at IT again from the portfolio point of view. Result season is not bad, as I've shown the data. What is looking good is that corporate India is suggesting that second half would be better purely because of the festive season. And festive season this time should be good. Why? There are reasons for that. 100 bips rate cut done by RBI, 1 lakh crore rebate given by that budget. Monsoon is good, so that's why rural economy should be good. That makes me believe that second half will be so good, the earnings growth would be good. And due to that, I strongly believe that equity in next 12 months would be the best performing asset class, even as compared to gold, even as compared to the real estate. So if you have a money, time is not to move out of the equity as an asset class, which has been, that's what data suggests from NSE, that retail investors took out money from the equity. I think you should not do it. Please increase your equity allocation now. And when I come in front of you in July 2026, you will see how it added to your portfolio. Of course, last 12 months you must have lost money. I agree with you. But don't be a victim of recency bias. We are all going to make handsome money in next 12 months, and hence every dip in this market should be used as an opportunity. Please record this statement of mine. If I go wrong, please remind me next July 2026. Next 12 months, market is going to give a handsome returns to us, and hence, if you have a money, you have a capacity, please increase your allocation to the equity. But if you don't have extra money, please do not reduce exposure from the equity, because you will repent the decision. That's what has happened with the equity retail investors in the first 3 months of 2025. Do not take out money from equity to invest in real estate. Do not take out money from the equity to invest in gold. I hope the message is loud and clear. With this, let's open the floor for question answer. Thanks a lot, sir, for your condolence message. Om Shanti. What is the view on chemical stocks are showing upward trend? My second question, with tariff answers, should they invest now or wait for the clarity? The time to invest, the best time to invest is when there is a doubts in the mind. For example, I give an example of Boeing. Am I right? Nothing was going right for Boeing, and yet it made more money than Nvidia in 2025. So I repeat, best time to increase allocation to equity. Even if you have invested in mutual fund, don't go for balance now. Go for out and out equity. Now the first question about Satishji is about chemical sector. Still, I'm not getting a clarity about what's going to happen to the world economy. And chemical is a commodity. So I would not be comfortable buying into chemical right now. Maybe some companies there and there is a different story, but I would not be comfortable. Second thing, Chinese economy may basically slow down. Why? Because China, the second quarter is not good as compared to first quarter GDP growth. That's what I mentioned in my presentation also. I think that the demand, the export that happened to the US may come down because of new tariff coming in, and that could impact. So right now, I would not be just to buy chemical. Now you may ask, the best time to buy when the uncertainty is there. Am I right? Because right now it's a commodity. So I would not be very comfortable. So no, answer is no. Siva sir is saying, what were the reasons yesterday market did not react too much on the latest tariffs imposed by the USA, but it reacted today. Thank you very much. So, sir, market is own logic. Let's be very honest with you. And who knows, on Monday market can be up again. So don't get too much, as I said in my presentation, very loud and clear. Yes, there could be a knee-jerk reaction, but the knee-jerk reaction could be temporary than the permanent kind of a stuff. I think India is so again I repeat, why we should all be comfortable with domestic theme. And if you go back to our 2025 outlook, equity outlook in January, we said this 2025 would be the more domestic theme than the international theme. India still is domestic. Of course, we do understand that the US the reduction in the export to the US could have an impact. But whatever my limited understandings, many of the products which we export to the US are not covered by 25%. Like pharma is exempted. That's what I understood. I could be wrong, and let's get more clarity from the US. Even electronics are exempted, seems to be. If that is so, the impact would not be as severe, which has been perceived by many. In that sense, then if that is so, why should the market should react? So I would not be surprised on Monday, market close in the grain. Vatsal sir is saying, I don't think the quarterly results are encouraging. What prompts you to say that results are good? Sir, the data. I presented data comparing Y on Y. And you need to look at the data in the environment they've been basically. The result season started with an assumption that the numbers will be very, very poor. But the data suggests that numbers are good, and I've removed Reliance because he has a one-time income because they sold Asian Paints investment, so the other income is more. I've even removed BFSI just to get a more clarity about is it driven by BFSI, which is normally been the largest contributor to the net profit. No, but that's also not the case. So the numbers are good. That's the reason. I'm saying the data purely based on data. And Vatsal sir, when this result season gets over, I'll also present some data in whether this growth in the earnings, is it because of few sectors? Is it because of few companies? And that's where you will get more granularity. So the numbers are not really bad. I must tell you that. So that's what basically my conclusion based on the data coming. And of course, you can agree to disagree. That's fine with me, sir. In your earlier webcast, you have stated that all we forget about tariff by July, August, but still tariff is denting our market. We are still in deep mess. Do you agree now? I agree with you, sir. We thought the Trump would basically the April is a final deadline for implementing the tariff. Then he extended by 3 months. He further extended by 1st August, and now we are again saying 7th August. But is it denting the market sentiment too much? The answer is no, sir. And if you look at one slide that which I presented, and let me go back to that slide. I think you must have missed it because you must have joined me a little late. So what I did, I basically look at the date-wise, the market. Can we show this slide again if you don't mind? Amil, thanks. From 2nd April to 9th April, the market went down by 4%. When there was a delay or the deferment of tariff by 3 months from 2nd April to 2nd July, the market during the same period, Nifty 50 moved at 13.6%. And from 2nd July to 1st August, we are down by 3.5%. So overall, we are actually positive. Isn't it? So I don't think it's denting the market sentiment. Denting the market sentiment, the market should have gone down to 3-4%. Which did not happen yesterday. It did not happen today. Santrap sir, filling up various posts in the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal on deputation basis. Sir, what is the question, sir? Sorry, sir, I'm not able to understand your question, sir. Let's move on. Bobby Chetan sir is saying best sectors from a 3 to 5 years perspective, please. Thanks. So 3 to 5 years is too long period because I don't know. There are various moving parts in the world. What I strongly believe, if the banks and BFSI should do well for next 12 months or so. I strongly believe capital goods infra should do well. I strongly believe consumption themes should do well, that's the FMCG should do well for 12 months point of view. Next 1 or 2 months, the IT sector will come down and maybe that could become another good sector to look at it. So that's what. But so right now, let's look at 1 year in a row to build on that. And as you know that buy and hold strategy may not be the always best strategy for investors to follow. So 3 to 5 is a little too, and we are living in a very VUCA kind of a scenario. You know VUCA, am I right? Volatile, uncertain kind of a scenario where we should not have 3 to 5 year view either on the company or on the sector. Can you throw some light on how valuation dollar index affects stock market? I don't think, sir, it affects too much. Yes, FPI inflow can get impacted because of rupee depreciation too much. But does it affect the stock market? So normally what has been observed that if the rupee declines sharply in short period of time, it does impact the markets and it does impact the market negatively. But is there a correlation between rupee depreciating against the stock market? I don't know, sir. I have not come across. I've not done any study. Even if I have done study, I can't recollect what the study was. But I don't think you should look to give too much importance to that, to be very honest with you. We are all Indians actually. We invest in Indian equity market, so we don't run a risk of a rupee depreciate against the dollar. If someone foreigner invests, they need to look at the returns in dollar terms. So, and I strongly believe, I repeat again, I would not be surprised if Indian equity market in the next 12 months give returns somewhere in the region of 15 to 16%. In rupee terms, I'm talking about. I again repeat, Indian equity market will give better returns compared to US market in dollar terms. So even there is a variation in dollar, India would be better markets as compared to the US market in next 12 months. Frank sir is saying which revising India's FY 2026 GDP growth forecast 6.3. how might this slight downward influence equity market sentiment and sector performance in August and beyond, particularly cyclical versus defensive stocks? So if you look at it, the IMF yesterday revised India's GDP by 20 bips. Am I right? So this revision will keep happening. I don't think the market is going to get too much perturbed up by that. I again repeat, the India's festive season this year would be extremely good. People are forgetting that. Why? Because of good monsoon, because of 100 bips rate cut from the RBI, which has started percolating down, and the 1 lakh crore rebate given by the income tax in the last budget. And that's going to make this festive season much better than what it was there in the previous years. So my sense is that don't read too much into the downgrade by Fitch. In fact, yesterday IMF revised it upward. So there will be some institute which will revise downward, some will upward. But the second half of FY 2026 would be extremely good for India Inc. because the growth in earnings would be there, and that should help Indian equity market to do well. Mupton, any advice on sugar sector and why ethanol sector is not doing well despite full support from the government and good monsoon? I think one thing was that if the first thing, I think the ethanol pricing has not been revised to the best of my understanding. So that's one reason that's been done. Number one. Number two, I think when the crude oil prices are down, the ethanol story takes a beating. Now if the crude oil price starts going up, so that ethanol blending makes more lot of sense. So that's another reason. So now in last if you look at it, the crude oil prices are going down continuously. Last 2 months, crude oil prices started going up. And that's why the ethanol story make a comeback. Of course, a little too early to say so, but it can make a comeback, this one. If the crude remains above $70 per barrel, so it can make a lot of sense for the ethanol story to make a comeback. Second thing, government is also allowing ethanol from other sources, other than sugar also. And that also makes a little sugar, little this one. The division of the sugar price does not happen. While every year we see the sugarcane price keep increasing, but there is no impact, and that also impacts the margin for the sugar company. That's another reason why the sugar companies are little underperforming in the last couple of months. Gopal Krishna, with so many Mojo stocks on the list, most of them expensive or very expensive, it's mind-blowing how to select from a minimal stock portfolio. Please advise. Sir, Gopal Krishna, sir, very simple. You need to look at the score, don't look at the valuation in isolation. Am I right? The higher the score, better the company is. So if you to follow blindly, if you are getting confused which Mojo stock to follow, pick the highest rated Mojo stock. That's the simplest way you need to look at it. Now, if you wish to say, okay, I am not comfortable with this particular sector, I am more comfortable with that particular sector, then go with that particular sector. You don't have a choice in per sector, but you have a view on the market cap, then go. If you think large cap should do well, to select the best stock within the large cap. If you think mid cap is going to do well, select the best mid cap stock within that. If you think small cap, that's the way you can look at it. But if you don't have a view on the sector, you don't have a view on the market cap, select the highest score. That's the way you should look at it. MP Jain sir, I got 15% gain in the last 1 year YOY as per portfolio analysis. So that's very good, sir. If you got a 15% gain, I'm not very sure Jain Saab, others have got the similar kind of return. That means your stock selection has been good, your stock allocation has been good. But I know many investors, even if you look at your mutual fund portfolio, on year, they would not be very high. Of course, 1 or 2 schemes here and there, but if you look at the mutual fund as a portfolio, either you would be negative or you would be less than 3-4%. Suresh Joshua, what will be the impact of pharma stocks which have substantial exposure to US market? So as of now, my understanding is that pharma has been excluded from this 25% tariff. Things can change anytime because in the past Trump did threaten to impose tariffs because he wants more production to happen in the US That's what has happened. So I think it's a developing story. As of now, there is no impact of tariff on the pharma sector, but things can change. And hence, if you ask me, I would rather prefer to play safe and not take any exposure to the pharma sector. Let's till such time the clarity comes in. You know that the Trump has advised to reduce the price of pharmaceutical product to the US company. That could also impact the Indian pharmaceutical company. Today, Sun Pharma was down because of that only. Rahul Kumar, thanks for your continuous message, sir. Uh, Please confirm if the sitting on cash for next 6 months will be better than going through the huge volatility in equity market. Please confirm the outlook on small and mid-sized fertilizer, pesticide, chemical, and diagnostic companies as they are pure domestic play. Sitting on cash? The answer is clearly no. Please park your fund. I am also putting my money in the equity market. I don't know what will happen next week, next month, but I know for sure by July 2026, Indian equity market would be up by 12 to 14 to 15 to 16%. Anywhere between 12 to 16%. Let me put it this way. We will make returns in double digits. So don't do that. Please put that. Make volatility your friend, not your enemy. And the fertilizer, pesticides, chemicals, I don't know, but fertilizer, pesticides are doing extremely well purely because of good monsoon and so on and so forth. So I think they may do well. Some of the fertilizer companies have run little ahead of the fundamentals, so be little careful in that case. Diagnostic company, I'm not very sure, sir. Even though it's a domestic play, I don't think you need to get into that. I don't think you will make a lot of money in that. So focus on domestic theme. I agree with you. Within the domestic theme, there are other domestic theme also playing out very well, like banks, BFSI, FMCG, infra, capital goods. Why don't you look at that also? Raghunathan sir, I have 50 lakhs to invest and will stay invest 5 years, which is good. PMS and mutual. What is the PMS performance so far? So Raghunathan sir, if you ask me, if you have 5 years and you can stomach the volatility, come to the PMS. What has been performance? Our performance has not been so great. Let me tell you very honestly, because we did take some cash call. We wanted to preserve capital and so on and so forth. We have not done so well in PMS doesn't mean that we will not do well in future. In fact, on the contrary, next 12 months, we are likely to outperform this benchmark significantly. Why? Because our IP, last one has been really choppy in the market, am I right? Whenever the markets are choppy, our IP does not perform well. When markets are stable, we outperform significantly. And hence, you have 5 years, so you will be more matured investors. So please come to the PMS and you should do very well. Sunil called, sir. My question is that you have been telling time and again investing in silver will be better than gold. Now, can we still invest in silver? Answer is yes, sir. If you remember, I said do not invest in gold. I don't know which webinar I mentioned, but I did mention that loud and clear. Now I can't recollect whether I made the statement to a PMS customer or to the open forum like this. But I still believe gold has a little limited upside, but silver still has a lot of leg room. So please go and invest even now in silver. Probability is very high that you will make good money. If you go back to my equity outlook webinar last month, I did mention that I'm revising upward on my outlook on silver, and I'm not changing my view even now. Tapan sir is saying there are no FMG share in top Mojo stock since long. Any reason? It's a function of, we are data driven company, am I right? So till now result is not coming in. As and when they come, it will come. My job is to give you the data, and FMCG is my personal view, it's not MarketsMojo view. Yes, it will come because our IP wants to be doubly sure before it makes a Mojo stock, am I right? So it comes with a little delay, but as and when it comes, it creates a lot of wealth for the investors. So right now we are right, there is no mojo stock from the FMC sector, but eventually it will come. Whether it comes next month or in the next result season, it's just a matter of time. You can play in advance and you can make gain of based on my insight. That's what the choice is yours. Either you can wait for the FMC, some companies from FMC sector to become a mojo stock, or you can invest now and then enjoy the upside a little more longer. Ganesh sir, what could be the final bottom Nifty? Is it expected to 20,400? Answer is no. I do not expect Nifty to go down to 20,400, period. I again repeat, Ganesh ji, from here, the probability of Nifty 50 going upward is higher than the lower. I would be surprised if Nifty goes down by even 5% from this level. So I'm bullish on market, and please do not take any cash calls. Do not reduce your equity exposure. If you have the money, please increase exposure to equity, and please do not borrow money and invest in the equity market. Amir is sending me a signal. Is it no more questions or? बॉस मैं एक महीने के बाद उनके सामने आया हूँ, थोड़ा क्वेश्चन ले, थोड़ा एक्सटेंड करते हैं. Muthu Subramaniam, is it safe to invest in fixed deposit offered by small finance banks since they are offered higher interest rate than regular banks? Sir, I can tell you with RBI will not allow any small finance bank to go bust. If you have put money for your fixed deposit, it's safe. Please do not put in cooperative bank. We don't know what can happen to that. But since you are talking small finance bank, your money is safe in fixed deposit, sir. That's what will happen to our money if a small finance bank fails. No, sir, it will not fail. RBI will not allow. Sir, tell me, show me one bank in the country which has been RBI has allowed to fail. Not a single rupee has been lost by any fixed deposit holder. Yes, it can happen with cooperative bank. I'm not talking. That's why I said cooperative bank छोड़ दो. जो बैंक है कोऑपरेटिव जो स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक है या कोई भी बैंक है, एक भी फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट होल्डर का पैसा नहीं गया अब तक. Of course, it can get merged with some other bank. It happened in the past, and you will get your money. Yes, the answer is yes. You are absolutely right, sir. Yes Bank also किसका पैसा नहीं डूबा, sir. SBI invested in that. Not only the shareholder also made money. तो किसी फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट का किसी का पैसा नहीं गया यस बैंक में. In the past, we have seen Global Trust Bank and other banks. No one lost money. So don't worry about it, sir. आपका पैसा फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट नहीं जाएगा, मुझे सर. Will defense sector continue with upward trend or better to hold on, wait and watch for this sector? The numbers that have come out of the defense companies have not been so great. The numbers are in front of all of you. Some of the companies did see some margin pressure also. So my advice would be stock selective. I do like a couple of defense play purely because they've done extremely good job. The outlook also looks very promising, but not all. So if you ask me, I would rather trim my holding in the defense company at this point of time, rather than basically wait for to go further come down. Barring one or two companies, I don't like many defense companies as we speak. And don't ask me which company I like, because I would not like to go company specific. In fact, in our PMS, we did lock in profits in some of the defense companies. I must clarify that also. Good evening, RB sir. What as per you is the reason US is aligning with a country like Pakistan and away from India? How do we see this? And does India need to understand reform just like it did in 1991 to march ahead? I know someone basically put a comment that we should go back to reform like 1991. See, I don't understand what is 1991 has to do with 2025. In 1991, we had a serious crisis in the country. Sir, हमको अपना gold गिरवी रखना पड़ा था. So I don't see any. I know someone wrote an article and opinion piece. Please do not compare 1991. 1991 वाला इंडिया कुछ अलग था, 2025 वाला इंडिया कुछ अलग है. बहुत फर्क है. I don't think that makes little. And of course, reform is a continuous process. But I don't think, do we need to have a, kind of a hard press on the reforms and do something which requires a very urgent requirement? Answer is clearly no. Sir, it's not a gaunt case at all, India. ये थोड़े बेवकूफ़ होते हैं. I'm sorry to use that harsh words, but we don't need to show that. Now, why the US is aligning with the Pakistan? You need to ask Trump. He is the best person to. Even he talked about the reserves, oil reserves. Where is that oil reserves? Even we need to know. Even Pakistan wants to know कि वो oil reserve है कहाँ पे? जो eventually he's taking that India will be asked to buy or India will be buying in future. कहता भी दीवाना सुनता भी दीवाना कैसा है सर? So why is he aligning? Only God knows and the Trump knows. I am really surprised with this. So sometimes you need to take this things with. I don't know what is in mind, what is the game plan, why is he basically singling out India? Very difficulty. And the way this gentleman has been volatile, who knows? Today, India is not in a good books. Tomorrow it could be. Uska love and hate relation, with China what has happened, am I right? We know what happened with EU, European Union. So we need to wait and watch. Mexico is another classical example. He's now saying I'm willing to basically extend it further. So उसके लिए उसको यानी it's very difficult to read this guy actually. Sometimes it will be good, sometimes it will be bad, and again good, bad, good. मैं sometimes in a lighter note I say जितना वाइफ का मूड चेंज नहीं होता उससे ज़्यादा तो ट्रम्प का मूड चेंज होता है आजकल. Sir, why is the market punishing results which are not expecting so much? Earlier, the stocks did not lose so much. Does that point that overall valuations are very high? Sir, if you look at last 3-4 quarters, there has been a trend. When the market result does not meet the expectation, the script falls very substantially. And especially on those companies where valuations were a little high in anticipation that the growth will continue. So this has been happening. This is not a very particular quarter for this June only. This happened in March, it happened in December, it happened in September. Go back and you will realize this is happening. There's nothing unusual. And it happens more so when the expectations are too much built into. आप समझे sir? So it's a problem of, and I also blame some of the corporates also. So I'll give you a few classical examples within the pharma space. They say that, okay, we will keep growing at so much percentage for many years to come. So first you raise the expectation and then you don't deliver on those expectations. क्या होगा? बचेगी ना आपकी तो. So I think I blame the people, those who are running those companies, and will raise the expectation. In fact, I like the management, and I've realized in my life, the one mantra I can give you right now: avoid those companies which give a very lofty projection. मैं ये कर लूँगा, मैं वो कर लूँगा, we will do this and that. I really get scared of those companies. Yes, it sounds very good in the short run, but eventually there are many things which are beyond their control. Even if they want to achieve, they will not be. So there is expectation. Short term में बहुत अच्छा लगता है. Eventually those companies underperform terribly. Okay, so what I like companies which don't give prediction. If they give prediction, they normally give a very reasonable prediction and they overshoot that prediction time and again. I like the management. If you look at the commentary, they are very grounded. They will not unnecessarily use a very superlative words in their con call. And you should observe these are the small things which really gives an idea about the quality of the management and what they can deliver going forward. So this, if you follow this, I think you should find, and you will not have a company in your portfolio because of the result. The script has fallen substantially in days. In fact, there is one or few pharma company basically they went down substantially with the circuit 2 days in a row, purely because they raised the expectation of the investors in that. Something similar will happen I think in the March 2025 results also, one pharmaceutical company, the price came down substantially post-result because the expectations were not met. So last three questions, I know, understand. So last three questions, please. Amir, sorry यार, तुम्हारा थोड़ा delay हो जाएगा. Santosh Kumar sir, is it a good time to invest in oil and gas ETF since oil prices may go high? Thank you. So Santosh sir, I don't expect gold price or oil prices to go up further from this level. So should you invest in ETF too much? Answer is no. No. Bangladesh sir, free culture is growing in India. So far, there is a fiscal management is good. In future, can we expect capex is possible as per the estimates and manufacturing sector will improve? So I agree with you, sir, free culture, and I mentioned in the past also, I think this free culture needs to stop somewhere. Otherwise, India को ले डूबेगा. In fact, if voters like us basically decide कि जो free में देता है ना, announce करता है ना, उसको vote ही नहीं देंगे. And hence it will teach a lesson to the political party कि ये free culture बंद होना चाहिए. Because like take an example of Maharashtra. I think the financial health is not so great because some of the contractors said that they have not been paid for the work they have done and so on and so forth. So I think this free culture has to, and because it's really terrible, it makes fiscal management terrible. In future, can we expect private capex to start? Answer is yes. I do believe that private capex will come back very strongly. Couple of reasons for that. The rate of interest, 100 bips rate cut. Number two, the stronger growth coming from the domestic demand because of 1 lakh crore rebate, good monsoon, so on and so forth. I think that makes me hopeful. And even if you look at the capacity utilization, which is RBI keep announcing every now and then, it's almost at the peak level. So in other words, if you expect as a promoter of a management of a company, you see that my growth will going to come up, then the existing capacity is not going to meet that future growth, and hence they would like to be future ready. So I'm hopeful that capex cycle should come back very strongly from the private sector. अभी इंडिया बड़ा हो गया, अभी यूएसए को इंडिया को कंपटीटर सोच रहा है. Susovan Gurai sir is saying yes, अभी India has become big and I think US is looking India as a competitor. That's the thing. I know we need to cover a lot of distance to really come at the level of USA, but I agree with you, India has become big. I don't think anyone can take India now for granted in a global scheme of things. Last question, Amir. Jayan sir, you mentioned about silver in your equity outlook webinar, sir. So I guess electronics manufacturing sector will be hit at least temporarily due to tariff. Will electronics product supply increase the domestic market and lower the prices? So Jayan sir, as of now, electronics and the pharma are not part of the tariff 25%. That's my limited understanding. But assume that it's also there. Silver, we are the price taker. We are not the price maker. Okay. Suppose the electronics not manufactured in India, it's manufactured somewhere else. Still silver would be used. Silver is an international commodity. So in India, the silver price gets decided by the international prices. So what would happen? The demand, the manufacturing, I assume that what is happening. Demand, the manufacturing may shift from one region to another region. But that region will still require silver to manufacture, a silver to get, am I right? So that's why the silver demand will remain robust. So silver is an international commodity, sir, and hence the silver it's a function of silver, is a function of the electronics and so on and so forth. The demand will remain, and hence I believe that outlook for silver remains very, very robust. With this, thanks a lot everyone taking time out and attending this webinar. Again, next week I'll be in front of, now it's a regular for me, so I'll be there in front of you next week also. Good night, take care.